But my parents are both gone. My grandparents are all gone. They're the only family that I've lost. They're the only grandparents that my children have. And I want them to stay in my kids' life.
Picture this. It's a crisp July afternoon in 2023, and the quiet town of Leongatha, in rural Victoria, hums softly with the sounds of distant traffic, rustling trees, and birdsong. A picturesque snapshot of country life, where neighbors wave, gossip travels slowly, and nothing out of the ordinary ever seems to happen. Erin Patterson's home, nestled among rolling hills and greenery, appeared calm and inviting that day. The scent of home cooking drifting through the air as if welcoming her guests with warmth and care. At her dining table sat Dawn and Gail Patterson, her ex-partner Simon's parents, and Gail's sister, Heather Wilkinson, with her devoted husband, Ian. Erin, a 50-year-old mother of two, had extended the invitation for lunch, presenting a dish that exuded sophistication and comfort. A golden, flaky beef Wellington. The pastry shimmered under the warm kitchen lights, encasing tender beef and mushrooms, a meal that would seem to heal rifts and bridge divides. But beneath the aroma of herbs and butter was a silent killer, a deadly ingredient chosen not by accident, but, prosecutors would later argue, with malice. Hidden in the dish were death-cap mushrooms, one of the most toxic substances in nature. Their poison, potent enough to kill an adult with a single bite. Within hours, this seemingly ordinary family gathering would spiral into horror. That evening, as the guests returned home, their bodies betrayed them. Violent illness overtook them one by one. Nausea, vomiting, cramping so severe it left them writhing in agony, their organs silently failing as the amatoxins invaded their systems. Doctors at first suspected food poisoning, unaware that their patients were being destroyed from the inside by a toxin that no cooking method could neutralize. By the time they realized it was death-cap mushroom poisoning, it was too late. Dawn and Gail Patterson succumbed to liver failure. Heather Wilkinson followed soon after, and only Ian Wilkinson survived, saved by a desperate liver transplant. What began as a pleasant afternoon lunch was now a national nightmare. Leongatha was stunned, a sleepy farming town suddenly at the center of one of Australia's most chilling murder investigations. Attention turned immediately to the woman who had served the meal, Erin Patterson. Calm, composed, and seemingly cooperative, she told police it was all a terrible accident, that she had purchased mushrooms from a local supermarket and never once foraged wild ones. But investigators quickly uncovered cracks in her story. Evidence revealed that Erin had not only lied about foraging mushrooms, but had also lied about owning a food dehydrator, an item she admitted later to discarding in a panic. Her deception drew suspicion like blood in the water, and soon the world was watching this case unfold. Prosecutors alleged that Erin had deliberately planned this meal, carefully sourcing the mushrooms, even weighing them, before cooking them into her dish. Though they never named a precise motive, they hinted at fractured family relationships, particularly with her estranged husband, Simon, and the bitter tensions that had simmered in the months leading up to the luncheon. The media dubbed her the Mushroom Killer, and her story captivated headlines worldwide. How could a mother of two, a seemingly ordinary woman, orchestrate something so insidious? The trial, held in Morwell, Victoria, was a gripping spectacle that spanned more than 10 weeks, with forensic experts, mushroom specialists, and family members testifying to reconstruct that deadly afternoon. The prosecution painted Erin as a cold and calculating figure, her stoic demeanor in court a mask for her cruelty. Toxicologists explained how amatoxins from death caps attack the liver and kidneys, causing excruciating pain, organ failure, and, often, death. It was a horrifyingly efficient weapon of murder. The mushrooms could be mistaken for edible varieties, and their poison was impervious to heat or drying. The jury listened to testimony from first responders and doctors who described the victims' final days, their agony palpable in every detail. Friends described Dawn and Gail as pillars of their community, beloved and generous, while Heather Wilkinson was remembered as deeply faithful and nurturing. Ian Wilkinson, the sole survivor, sat quietly in court, his body weakened from his transplant, his grief etched on his face as he relived the horror of losing his wife, brother-in-law, and sister-in-law. Erin's defense clung to the narrative of a tragic mistake, arguing that she was being vilified because of panicked lies and circumstantial evidence. They portrayed her as a loving mother who was terrified of being wrongly accused and made poor decisions in fear. Erin herself testified, her voice trembling as she admitted to lying about the mushrooms and the food dehydrator. It was this stupid knee-jerk reaction to dig deeper and keep lying, she confessed. I was just scared, but I shouldn't have done it. But her words failed to convince the jury, who were presented with chilling forensic details, tying the mushrooms directly to her home and cooking process. Evidence showed she had sourced and weighed the mushrooms before adding them to the Wellington, and investigators testified that she had disposed of key evidence in a calculated effort to cover her tracks. Her demeanor throughout the trial, sometimes defiant, sometimes tearful, did little to win over a public that had already made up its mind. To many, Erin wasn't just a suspect. She was the face of betrayal itself. This wasn't a crime of passion or a moment of madness, but a premeditated act of murder carried out with eerie precision. The verdict came after a tense week of jury deliberations, guilty on 3 counts of murder and 1 of attempted murder. In the courtroom, there was a sharp intake of breath, and tears flows, wid freely from the victims' families. Erin sat expressionless as the decision sealed her fate. But outside the courthouse, the community of Leongatha exhaled a collective sigh of relief. After 2 years of speculation, rumors, and devastating grief, justice had been served, though it could never bring back those who were lost. Erin now faces life imprisonment, with sentencing expected in the coming weeks, though she has the right to appeal within 28 days of her sentencing. For the small rural town, this case will forever haunt its history. The image of a home-cooked meal turned weapon lingers like a ghost over Leongatha, a reminder that evil can wear an ordinary face, and tragedy can emerge from even the simplest acts of trust. The story of Erin Petterson is not merely a tale of crime. It's a disturbing reflection of how cruelty can be cloaked in domestic normalcy. Her conviction marks the end of a 2-year saga that has shocked Australia and fascinated the world. A true crime case that reads like a psychological thriller, but is tragically real. The details are haunting. A Sunday lunch in a cozy home, a dish meant to symbolize warmth and connection, and a quiet plan that ended in 3 agonizing deaths. The mushroom of choice, the death cap, is infamous among toxicologists, a natural killer capable of destroying a person's liver within days, and yet its appearance is deceptively benign. For centuries, it has symbolized treachery, and in Erin's case, it became the perfect metaphor, something seemingly harmless, hiding unimaginable danger. This was not a crime of rage or chaos, but of control, manipulation, and deception, executed with precision and patience. Throughout the trial, experts explained how death caps, once ingested, cause a brief window of false recovery before the poison takes full effect, leading victims to believe they're improving, only for their organs to shut down. Prosecutors leaned heavily on this fact, emphasizing the slow cruelty of such a method and suggesting Erin chose it deliberately to prolong suffering while masking her guilt. The defense argued that Erin was panicked, that her lies about foraging mushrooms and owning a dehydrator were those of a terrified woman trapped in a nightmare. But the weight of evidence drowned out her pleas. Her disposal of the dehydrator, an action she admitted in court, was seen not as panic, but as calculated. The image of her calmly discarding key evidence burned into the minds of jurors. Meanwhile, the families of Dawn, Gail, and Heather sat in silent grief, forced to relive the trauma of losing 3 beloved relatives in the most unimaginable way. Ian Wilkinson, a man of faith who had barely survived after a liver transplant, emerged as a symbol of resilience, though his sorrow was palpable. In statements released after the verdict, Victoria Police acknowledged the family's unimaginable pain and asked for privacy, promising to continue supporting them as they attempted to heal from this devastating ordeal. Erin Petterson's sentencing will likely result in life in prison, a fitting consequence for a crime that shocked even veteran investigators. Her story now serves as a cautionary tale, not just about the dangers of wild mushrooms, but about the chilling depths of human betrayal. Poisoning is often described as a quiet crime, a method chosen by those who want control and deniability, and Erin's actions fit this profile perfectly. She smiled, she cooked, she invited her victims into her home, and in that act of supposed generosity, she sealed their fate. For the town of Leongatha, this crime shattered the illusion of safety. In a place where neighbors still know one another by name, where church bells and farmland define life, the idea that such evil could take root in their community feels like a nightmare from which they cannot fully wake. Journalists, criminologists, and true crime enthusiasts dissected the case, fascinated by its Shakespearean elements: betrayal, deceit, and tragedy, unfolding under a facade of normality. The mushroom became a symbol of this duplicity, a deadly organism hiding behind a friendly exterior, much like Erin herself. Even now, questions remain unanswered. Was the crime driven by revenge, custody disputes, financial motives, or something darker and more personal? Prosecutors never identified a definitive motive, which only deepened the horror. A murder without a clear reason feels even more monstrous, and Erin's refusal to admit guilt left families and observers grappling with a chilling truth. Some people commit evil, not out of necessity, but out of choice. As true crime podcasts and documentaries inevitably revisit this story, Erin Petterson's name will be forever etched alongside some of history's most notorious poisoners. But this isn't just a crime to be sensationalized. It's a tragedy that devastated real lives and tore apart families. The victims, Dawn and Gail, loving parents and grandparents; Heather, a kind and faithful sister; and Ian, who carries both survivors' guilt and physical scars, are the heart of this story. Their lives were not defined by their deaths, but by their love, generosity, and connection. And remembering them is crucial to honoring their legacy. Erin's conviction provides some measure of closure, but the emotional wounds remain deep, especially for her own children, who now face a lifetime of reconciling their mother's crime with their own memories of her. The mushroom murders, as they are now known, are a sobering reminder of the fragility of trust. Food, The universal language of love and connection became a weapon in this story. A shared meal is one of humanity's most ancient acts of bonding, and Erin's decision to corrupt that ritual with poison is what makes this case so disturbing. Evil doesn't always come with warning signs. Sometimes it comes in the form of a warm smile, an invitation to dinner, and a dish served with apparent care. Erin Petterson's actions force us to confront the uncomfortable reality that betrayal can come from those closest to us. That darkness can lurk beneath ordinary facades. This crime is a warning. Danger is not always loud or obvious, and trust is as fragile as glass. For Leongatha, for Victoria, and for the world, this story stands as a chilling testament to the devastating consequences of deceit, a tale that will echo for years in the annals of true crime history.